Hello everyone. Sorry I forgot to record a video yesterday, but I just forgot. There's no excuse. But anyways, today we have 8 problems because I was a bum and I missed literally more than 1/10 of the 75 question mock of the Princeton Review Guide test number 1. And as you guys know, that thing does not have a PDF, so I'll have to be reading the words, literally reading the question to you guys and kind of just summarizing what I missed and how the word was mistake. So question 22. Okay. So it's asking why the paragraph is divided into two. And the first part is this is about someone translating someone else's work. And literally, I think it's just when you're like, read the whole passage first and then come back. Because I chose G, which is an overview of the limitations and then of how it could improve on some specific thing. However, that was talked about in the first part of the second paragraph, but that's not what the whole second paragraph is about. And if I had read the whole thing and then came back to question 22, I would have realized that it was the other one, because like the content of the second paragraph essentially changes from when it first starts as, so it's kind of deceiving. Anyways, as you can see, and then I missed 4 in a row: 47, 48, 49, 50. Literally, when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this has got to be a mistake. Like, I can't miss 4 in a row, but I did miss 4 in a row. So yeah, 47. The thing was, Viermer is best known for portraying women in everyday domestic moments, since he showed them making lace, reading, or doing chores. And the underlying part was since he showed. The options were no change, showing, in which he showed, or delete the underlying portion. And I chose deleted. So it would read as Viermer is best known for portraying women in everyday domestic moments, them making lace, reading, or doing chores. And I was stupid because I didn't know that even as extra information, we need the thing to be grammatical and have an actual verb. So there's no verb acting on it when I just say them making lace, reading, or doing chores. So obviously not. And it should have been something that actually has a verb. So it would have been either in which he showed or, okay, hold on, wait, let me see. Best known for portraying women in everyday domestic moments. Showing them making lace. Yeah, I think showing was the right one. Oh yeah, so in which he showed wouldn't have worked because it doesn't actually refer to Vermeer, the painter. It doesn't refer to his painting. It only refers to the painter. And the painter doesn't show women doing domestic things. The painting does. So in which wouldn't have been correct as a modifier. Okay, 48, the one right after. This painting, however, centers on the male artist, semicolon. Critics believe represents Vermeer himself, comma, as he paints a female model. And the underlying part was artists, semicolon, and critics. So the options to replace were artist, comma, critics, artist, period, critics, or artist, critics. So I chose the one with the comma, and I basically made critics believe represents Vermeer himself and extra information, but extra information cannot omit the who or that. Only essential information that's not enclosed by commas can omit who and that, which means the part critics believe represents Vermeer himself has to be essential information, because essentially the thing was saying this painting, however, centers on a male artist that critics believe represents Vermeer himself, and that can only be omitted when it's essential information. So it has to be essential information instead of unessential surrounded by commas. 49 is a similar problem with unessential information. Okay. In another, comma, blurring of background details, comma, the folds of drape on the table are out of focus, comma, creating an impressionist effect. So, blurring of the background details, I chose that one as an extra information, but blurring of background details is not correct. There has to be a blurring of background details, as you can see, literally written on my Google Doc. So, because we don't have as an option, we have to make this whole thing essential statement. So basically, even though we weren't referring to any techniques before the sentence, and it's kind of weird, at least it's grammatical if we just do in another blurring of background details, comma, the folds of drape, blah blah blah. So basically, we make this entire first part an introductory statement, in which that is a valid reason to include a comma. So we did. Okay, and then the last one, and then four in a row, is 50. Okay, yeah, this is just kind of weird. Basic tools which the painter would need access to in order to paint, like palette, are absent from the image. This is this. Okay, wait, no. Okay, basic tools which the painter would need access in order to paint. The key thing about this sentence is that it doesn't say basic tools the painter would need access to in order to paint. It doesn't have the word to. So we have to choose the option of basic tools to which the painter would need access to in order to paint are absent from the image. So yeah, read the whole sentence before deleting, because I just deleted the which would have been right if the sentence included the words to. Okay, 57, that's a little bit more back. Vermeer's mastery of many paintings components, comma, including such fundamental elements as light and color, comma, result in an image that appears as accurate as a photograph. The underlying part was including such fundamental elements as, and the replacements were that are elements, or elements are, or just deleted. I chose elements as, so basically it would have been Vermeer's mastery of many paintings components, comma, elements as color, light and color, comma. So basically elements as light and color was used by me as an unessential statement, but it was not unessential because, okay, that wouldn't have been a valid unessential statement because such, wait, hold up. Okay, this is kind of, I genuinely don't remember. I think, okay, looking at my screen up here, it says I can't drop such when listing examples in non-essential information, which means okay. So if I want to enclose it with comma, okay, no, so I have to enclose it with comma. This has to be non-essential information. So we can't just make it elements as light and color because that doesn't have the word such, and we need the word such. So it has to be no change then. There are elements light and color, definitely not. Just light and color, probably not. So it has to be a no change. Let's see, 57. Okay, it was indeed no change. Okay, so even though, okay, so this is one of those questions that's like testing your comma usage disguised as testing conciseness. Because the four options are varying greatly in length. Especially the correct answer is actually like almost 3 times as long as the answer that I picked. So even though we all know ACT loves conciseness, sometimes you just have to delete stuff. You have to keep stuff. And this one is the one that I kind of struggled on. 63. Basically, a sentence talks about Matryoshka or whatever, some kind of doll in Russia. And then the next sentence was 3 years later, she and her husband moved into a city east of Moscow where she has expanded her Matryoshka production. And the options were her Matryoshka production or her production or their production or the production of them. Obviously, it's talking about the women, so it has to be her production or her Matryoshka production. But do we include the word Matryoshka? And the answer key said that we do because I think what it's trying to say is that this exact word doesn't appear in this exact sentence, so we should keep it. But I still feel like ACT loves deleting it because, I mean, this word is mentioned in the sentence right before. So, yeah, this is the one that I'm confused about, which is why I highlighted it in black. And finally, 69 was just another idiot mistake because I didn't notice that there was a comma at the end of the option I chose, and the other one looked exact same, which I should have looked at. I should have been suspicious when I saw two exact same options and should have noticed that there's a comma at the end of one of the options before I picked it. But hey, I learned from the mistake. And imagine if I did pick the right one, I wouldn't have even noticed this problem, and I would have walked into the actual ACT not knowing this problem, and maybe I would have lost a point from it. So yeah, this one was a terrible mock, and I made literally 4 mistakes in a row. That was embarrassing, and then 4 more mistakes. So that made my score 33. But as you can see, spoiler alert, the day after I got 36, and that was yesterday. So yeah, pretty impressive. And that's why I've stopped studying English after I mocked my first 36, which was the plan to begin with. And now I'm studying reading, which I thought would have been easy because on the pre-ACT my scores were, I think, 34 on math. Yeah, I didn't even get the perfect on math. 34 on math, 31 or 32 on reading, and then 21 on English. So I thought reading was going to be easy, but I'm literally crashing out right now because reading is not easy. Essentially, if you're taking an online ACT test, the Princeton Review Guide is not helpful at all. And honestly, even for digital version, even for on paper version, like the practice test I'm taking on the Princeton, the strategy they're providing is not useful. Like they basically ask you to Princeton suggests you that you identify lead words in the question first and then look for the lead words in the passage to quickly identify which parts you should read. But have they ever considered that finding two words, like for example, the example passage that they gave us, the words that we're trying to find is saving grace or something out of like a 3,000 word passage. It's way harder than just reading the passage as a whole. And I'm a terrible reader. I'm very slow at reading. So there's just no strategy for me. I can't improve my score. When I'm lucky, I get like a 33, 34. When I'm unlucky, I get like 31, 30. And I don't see a way to study to improve my score. And I can't get my reading speed up in a week. So what's the point? I did not expect reading to be harder than English.